CNN host Brian Stelter decided to do a segment, like many other segments he's done in the past, where he whines about Trump supporters being mean to the media, and also Trump himself being mean to the media. Let's watch.
Taking a look at the president's rhetoric. The American press is stronger than any demagogue, but President Trump's attacks present real challenges. For as long as I've been alive, for as long as you've been alive, no leader of the free world has publicly spoken about the press the way Trump does. It is poison. Calling news outlets the enemy of the people is a verbal form of poison. And maybe it's just meant to distract us, but it still must be taken seriously. So, if you've heard that before, it's because every word I said, everything I just said is 3 years old. I said it in front of this camera, in front of 1 million viewers in February 2017. That was the very first time Trump called reporters the enemy. Now, the root of the word news is new, but sometimes the biggest news of all is what hasn't changed, what is still happening. And when it comes to the president's war on truth, it's true, we have to continue to pay attention to it, even though it hasn't fundamentally changed. But some things have changed in 3 years. Let's look at what has changed. The president's words are still poison, but now the words are more potent. His fans are more loyal. He is intensifying a hate movement against the media, trying to ensure that people don't believe what reporters reveal about his leadership. His attacks are more frequent, they are more ferocious, and they are more specific, and they are happening in the midst of a deadly pandemic. Trump has shown a pattern over the past 3 years. Now we can say pretty confidently it's a pattern of treating women and minority journalists differently. Take his recent exchange with CBS News correspondent Weijia Zhang. We're going to get back to that in a moment. But there were some other examples this week that we have to call attention to. For example, President Trump tweeting to the FCC, which is an agency that is a part of his executive branch, and saying that NBC's Chuck Todd must be fired because Todd's show ran a misleading video clip. Trump also has been pushing a vile conspiracy theory about MSNBC's Joe Scarborough, implying that Scarborough is a murderer. That's insane. And look, how the president acts at the White House, what he does on Twitter, how he treats reporters in the briefing room, has ripple effects far from Washington. Look what happened this week on Long Island. This was in Comac at a right-wing pro-Trump protest that was set up to speak out against the lockdowns that are happening in Long Island and elsewhere. So this is video taken by News 12 reporter Kevin Vesey. He was at the rally to cover the opinions of the pro-Trump protesters, to give them attention. And in return, there were insults screamed at his face. He was heckled. At one point, it seemed like he was almost chased. Just take a look for yourself.
I think you need to back away from me.
No, I got hydroxychloroquine. I'm fine.
I'm just standing here. This guy will not get away from me.
There we go. You.
Oh, disgusting. You're disgusting.
You are the enemy of the people.
You are fake news.
Fake news is not essential. Fake news is not essential. Fake news is not essential.
And it went on and on and on. As reporters denounced this stuff when the video went viral, the president's Twitter feed lit up with support for the protesters. Here's the thing, with these tweets, he's not just celebrating this behavior. He's not just saying they have a First Amendment right to protest, which they do. The president's encouraging confrontations with reporters. He's saying it's okay. He's saying it's patriotic, it's Trumpian to confront local TV reporters, to yell epithets while they are trying to work, to act menacing in front of kids. That's where we are. This is the kind of stuff you see in autocracies, not democracies. Just ask yourself what you would say if you saw it in another country. And here's what makes this cycle so vicious, what makes this back and forth so vicious. The president lies, reporters point it out. He says the media hates him. Then his supporters back him up. They excuse the lie. They defend their guy. They get even more alienated from the media. They become convinced that reporters are the enemy, and this helps Trump, so he keeps raising the volume, and then there's even more to criticize, and the shouting's even louder and louder on social media, and harassment and threats against reporters become constant, and attacks against Trump, and on it goes. It is a vicious, vicious cycle. But basic decency is not and should never be partisan. It is not a Republican or Democratic idea.
Okay, so I'm going to break down a lot of that, but to that last point, he says basic decency is not a partisan thing. Okay, but Brian, the point of your critics is that you guys aren't decent. I get what you're saying, that a lot of the pro-Trump critics of the media, they're being indecent and they go too far and they cross a line. Sometimes that's true, sure. But the point of critics of the media, both right-wing critics and left-wing critics, is that, hey, maybe it's you guys who are being indecent. Like, for example, when you get the Iraq war wrong and you do endless propaganda for an illegal and offensive war against a country that didn't attack us, and then minimum 200,000 civilians are killed, innocent civilians, and then torture was ordered to cover it up, and then you got that wrong too, because you called torture enhanced interrogation because the government wanted you to and you did their bidding. Maybe you guys were indecent. Now, not Brian Stelter specifically, because I don't even know if he was in the media back then, but the media generally speaking. They got the Iraq war wrong. They got the Afghanistan war wrong. They got the Great Recession wrong and invited on people from Wall Street to tell everybody, hey, everything's fine, keep investing with us, keep giving us your money. Right before the economy fell off a damn cliff, they allowed these fraudsters on the air to scam people, and then they take no responsibility for it at all. They acted like there wasn't going to be a recession coming. They acted like everything was fine. People got screwed over. Every time the media says anything about Medicare for all, they get it wrong. That's indecent. It's indecent to do propaganda for for-profit mafia health insurance companies as people die because they don't have health care. That's indecent. That's indecent, Brian. It's indecent to get Russiagate dead wrong and push Russiagate endlessly during Trump's first term, as if it was going to be some sort of got ya. You also got impeachment wrong, and he gave people false hope that there was a snowball's chance in hell that Trump could have been impeached. And it was so much propaganda, and it was so pervasive that even people I know on the left who are not dumb people fell for it. So I'm pretty sure the point, not just from right-wing critics of the media, but left-wing critics of the media too, is that you guys are indecent. It's not like that's the thing. There's this reflexive defensiveness on the part of the media in the Trump era. And they self-aggrandize so much. They think they're so special. They think they're snowflakes. They think they never got anything wrong ever. And it's like, Brian, you and all of your buddies suck at this job. You're so bad at it that I'm an idiot YouTuber with the microphone and I run circles around you. Not because I'm so good, but because you guys are so damn bad. And you got elitist groupthink going on, and it's pathetic. Okay, now, let's go through more of his points. Well, actually, one of the things I have to say is, he's doing this segment whining about how Trump is mean to the media and Trump's people are mean to the media. He's doing this segment at a time when up to 70 million Americans are not going to have health insurance. At a time where we have a healthcare crisis the likes of which this country has never seen before. And he's whining about the president and his people being mean to the media. You know, maybe focus more on the things that are more important, like we don't have a healthcare infrastructure in this country. Maybe that's a more important story. Maybe it's a more important story that unemployment is surpassing 20%. The actual unemployment rate is over 20%. It's about 23% and rising. Maybe focus on that. So just the misplaced priorities up front really piss me off. And the other thing that annoys me is, so he's doing this whole segment on freedom of the press, yes! Freedom of the press, yes! Not a single word about Chelsea Manning, about Edward Snowden, about Julian Assange. If you actually are concerned with freedom of the press, you cannot have that conversation without bringing up people who are truly being oppressed by the government. Chelsea Manning, Edward Snowden, and Julian Assange. But you have nothing to say about them. In fact, you're against them. So this is why I can't take your crocodile tears seriously. When we have an actual issue that involves the legality of freedom of the press, you're nowhere to be found. In fact, you're actively on the wrong side of it. But you whine when the president does mean tweets about you. You whine when some of Trump's supporters are rude. It's unbelievable. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of those people, their criticisms of the press are dumb. Like, their criticisms are, you're not sufficiently sycophantic to Trump. Okay, well, you're a moron then. That's not a good criticism. But who cares? Who cares? Oh, they gave you the finger. Oh, are you okay? You're going to be okay? It's called being a public person. You know, it's par for the course. Hatred, if you're a public figure, if you're a journalist, it's par for the course. Some people will like you, some people will hate you. It is what it is. You know, I'm going to whine about it. It's so bad, it's so wrong. And then he says, well, you see this in autocracies and not democracies. And it's like, okay, dude, but the people who are truly being destroyed are Chelsea Manning, Edward Snowden, and Julian Assange. When it comes to you, when it comes to elite media, Trump tweets negative stuff about you, but you're not being put in jail now, are you? Nobody's actually muzzling you, which gets to the main point, which is people are criticizing you guys in the mainstream media. They're not censoring you. There's a big difference. You're not being censored. You're being criticized. Now, some of the criticism is stupid, granted, but some of it's actually intelligent and correct. Take it. Take it. Instead of whining. When we're in the middle of a depression, you do a segment whining because your fifis are hurt because the president and his supporters are mean. Get over it, man. Get over it. This is criticism. This isn't censorship. You're whining about how oppressed you are from your CNN show. That's not what would happen in a dictatorship. You want to know people who are truly being oppressed? Go talk to Edward Snowden. Go talk to Julian Assange. Go talk to Chelsea Manning. These are people who are truly oppressed. So I just can't stand how self-important and self-aggrandizing these people are. You look ridiculous, and you have no idea how you look. They can't take any criticism. As thin-skinned as Trump is, and he's very thin-skinned, the media is just as thin-skinned as he is. Mainstream media whines and cries and bitches and moans the second anybody says a negative word about them or criticizes them or is mean to them. Get over yourselves. You're really, really bad at your job, and there's a reason why. It's not just people on the right who hate you. People on the left hate you as well. And we've covered the numbers on the show. I think it's about 13% of the public that has a great deal of trust in the media, and something like 36% that has any trust at all in the media. So Donald Trump is more popular than the press. You would think that would bring about some self-reflection. You might want to look in the mirror and see, why is it that we're universally despised? But no, they don't do it. So instead they whine. As we have over 20% unemployment and a healthcare crisis in this country, people dying from a pandemic, he found time to do a segment whining because people are mean to him. Forgive me if I don't feel bad.